Welcome to the Rock is George podcast. I'm your host, George Dionne, and this is episode 87. Thank you for tuning into the podcast, whether it's through our website, rockisgeorge.com, or through our YouTube page at Rock is George, or on one of the many streaming platforms that carry the podcast, such as Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or through the loudest.com on the planet, knac.com. My guest for this episode is Kent Hilli of the Swedish Melodic Rock act Perfect Plan. Perfect Plan released their third studio album, Brace for Impact, on October 14th through Frontiers Music. It's a fantastic melodic rock album. I first discovered the band through Classic Rock magazine, right around the time their first album was released. I've been a fan ever since. Each album seems to get better than the last before it. Kent also has a solo career through Frontiers Music, and last year he was recruited to be the front man for a legendary hard rock act, Giant. Now, if you're a fan of the genre, you're familiar with Giant from the early to mid 90s, fronted by Dan Huff. Dan's gone on to become a widely successful producer across many different genres. Kent seems to be the perfect man to replace him. I don't want to say replace, but I guess take over for Dan Huff. But Kent and I talk more about that as the interview goes on. So without any further delay, here's Kent Hilli, vocalist for Perfect Plan. If I knew absolutely nothing about Perfect Plan, how would you describe the band's music to me?
If you haven't heard Perfect Plan, you need to check them out. I think Perfect Plan has a great mix of both classic AUR and melodic rock, and with a bit of a modern touch also. Great hooks, great melodies, great guitar riffs, and just a great band to go and check out.
I'd absolutely agree with that description, and it can certainly be heard on your latest studio album, Brace for Impact, which came out October 14th on Frontiers Music. You said in the PR sheets that this album came together pretty quickly. If you want to get a little into that.
Everything is relative when it comes to quickly, but we started out writing songs in August 2021. After two albums, the writing process goes faster because we have such a developed chemistry within the band. Everyone knows which direction the songs are going. Everyone understands the ideas much quicker, and so on. It often starts with me and the guitarist Rolf Nordström, who has a great riff, and I have a vocal melody on that, and we get it to the band and start working and building the songs from there. And this time around, it went much quicker than the previous albums. So we had basically written the whole album in 3 months and started recording. I think it was in December or something like that. We did some pre-productions first of all, and then started recording in December 2021. So, and we don't think too much about what direction the songs should go, or we just focus on writing great songs with great hooks and melodies and lyrics. And if it's a great song, it's going to be on the album. Eventually, you're going to hear it that it's Perfect Plan in the end anyhow. So we didn't think that much about, should we make it a bit heavier, a bit harder, or a bit more AUR, a bit more hard rock, or, it just comes very natural to us when writing songs.
And let's talk a little bit about the songs that you've put out so far to help promote the album. Let's talk a little bit about the meaning behind Surrender.
It's kind of a epical, mythical kind of song, and the lyrics is basically being haunted by an ex-girlfriend, or you could interpret it as an ex-boyfriend or whatever, but in this case it's an ex-girlfriend haunting you in your dreams, and something that hasn't been resolved in terms of the relationship, or or things that happened in a previous life. So like a ghost that is haunting you on a daily basis.
Yeah, we definitely been haunted by exes.
Exactly. It's a bit influenced by, you know, Queensryche and those type of songs that they had on you know, Operation Mindcrime and those albums, and it's got a similar feel to it. But I think we got our own touch on the songs, and it's still very melodic and a bit heavier. The album as a whole is a bit heavier than the previous albums. That song turned out really great, so I'm really proud of that song because it's lyrically and musically and you know, the band's performance on it's really great. And step aside from our previous albums in terms of just that song, because it's not the typical Perfect Plan song.
The next song that you have off the album is If Love Walks In. If you want to talk about kind of your thoughts behind that song.
It's about not having enough love in the world, because I think we need some more love in this world, because too much shit happening around the world, and it's basically our interpretation of that. So if love walks in, what will you do? If we could treat each other with more love and affection towards each other like brothers and sisters, I think we would have a much better world.
The third song from the album is Can't Let You Win, if you want to talk about that one.
Can't Let You Win is basically the story of my life, because I've been very competitive in my life. Basically, the video is about me starting out as a football player. I was basically an outsider when I was in my 11, 12 years old, and you know, I moved from Finland to Sweden, and I found a way to get accepted, and that was through football. I found that path, you know, being a good at something, and you know, being good at football, you know, I made friends, and you know, I was accepted. But it continued as I got older. The performance, has always been there. The competitiveness, to always compete, to always be the best in everything that I do. So basically, 5-6 years ago, it just I got fatigue syndrome because of that, because I've always been so competitive, and you know, so basically the song is about Can't Let You Win is basically the opposite message, because you have still a human worth if you don't perform at your best and are the best in anything, because you still have your human worth.
To that degree, is there a lot of competition within the Swedish melodic rock scene? I know there's a lot of Swedish melodic rock bands on Frontiers music.
Well, I shouldn't say competitiveness, competitive competitors, because I think not from our side, because and I think we've met some bands on some gigs, and you know, we always have a great laugh, and it's always great to see other bands and other artists. I think it's the opposite, really, because we get hugely inspired and influenced by other bands like, you know, Eclipse or Heat or bands like that. We get inspired and influenced by those bands also, because there should be some competitiveness, I think, because that makes you want to get better. Because if one band puts out a really great album, you want to do the same and want to make it even better. If you're too competitive, it's not so good. Some competitiveness needs to be there, I think.
Brace for Impact is your third album for Frontiers Music. Did Frontiers discover you, or did you send your material to them in the very beginning?
Yeah, the story behind it is that we had just recorded our first album. We just thought that, you know, let's do this ourselves. Let's distribute it and produce it ourselves and put it out on Spotify or and YouTube and so on. And our drummer Frederick was at a tribute band gig. The singer for the evening was actually Robin Eriksson from Degreed. So they started chatting in between the sets, and Frederick showed him the video for In and Out of Love, and Robin thought that it was great and said that, I know a guy in Stockholm who knows Serafino. Do you mind if I send this song to him? 2 weeks later, Serafino sent me an email and wanted to sign us. So, and we had discussed that, in the weeks and months before that, what if we could get a record deal with Frontiers? That would be awesome. So we basically didn't have to work that hard. It was faith, basically.
You recently played the Frontiers Rock Sweden festival on October 8th. You had a couple of other bands from the melodic rock genre out there. Was this your first big show after lockdowns? Yeah,
the first bigger show. Yeah, we've done a couple of gigs after the lockdown. So we played in Umeå and we played in our hometown as support for Nazareth on their Sweden tour. Then we played the Frontiers Festival in Stockholm.
And I would imagine the crowds are crazy around this time because they had been without music for the last 2 years.
Yeah, you can notice that. It's everyone's so happy to be on a concert, and it was a terrific evening. A lot of happy people and so much love in the crowd. Also, we had some really great time too during the show. So yeah.
Do you have any dates coming up to promote the new album?
Yeah, we have some live shows booked for 2023. In April, we're playing in Hamburg on the indoor Easter festival with Treat and Black Paisley and Crazy Licks. And we're playing in Belgium the day after, on the 9th of April, headlining on a nightclub. And then we have the Swedish rock magazine Rocknytt. They have a rock boat cruise from Stockholm to Finland. So we're playing with Dare and Demon and Grand Slam and Russ Ballard and Gathering of Kings. So, and we have also a rock boat cruise from Oslo to Copenhagen together with Dare, I think, and in I think it's September or something like that next year.
Now, a couple of years ago, I had interviewed you for a different publication, and we were talking about your influences, and you named the band Giant. And shortly after that interview, you're fronting the band Giant. So if you want to talk about how that all came about.
I just received an email from the label, and it just said Giant in capital letters in the subject. I think it was Mario DeRiso who just, to make a long story short, that's what he said. Do you want to be the new singer of Giant? And the story behind that is that, Serafino and David Huff had been talking, and we had, recently put out the song Stay in Perfect Plan from the covers EP, Jukebox Heroes. And so David had listened to that song and seen the videos and seen a couple of more videos from Perfect Plan and so on. And he knew that Giant was one of my main influences. And I know that Serafino had been on David to make a comeback and to do another Giant album. So I think that David just said that, okay, if Kent will sing, we'll do another album. That's the short story of it.
There had to be a little trepidation with replacing Dan Huff because he seems to be a big influence on the fans as far as the band's concerned. I think the album came out great personally, and people are missing a really great album if they're going to hold a grudge over a singer change.
I believe so too, because I'm the first in line to want Dan Huff back on vocals and on playing guitar in Giant, obviously. And of course, I reflected on that. What are people going to say now that you're going to sing instead of Dan? I wasn't the first replacement singer. It was Cherry Brock back in 2009. Maybe it was a bit easier on me because of that, because I wasn't the first one to replace him. As I said, I would be the first in line to want Dan Huff back. He's my favorite vocalist of all time. He's my favorite guitar player of all time. So he's unreplaceable. The band wants to continue and make new music. Still half of the band is of the founding members are still in the band. Mike and David. It's really up to them if they want to continue or not. And with Dan's blessing also, it felt very good to do this record. And he did a solo on the record as well. We wanted to have some more guitar from Dan on this album, but he didn't have the time to do that. Maybe next one. I know that Dan hasn't been singing for the past 30 years, so he's a big time producer in Nashville, and I thought a lot about that, in terms of would I myself would I accept that they bring on a new singer and new members in the band. Yeah, after some thought, I said yes. I want the band to continue, and why not with me on vocals? I don't think that many people would have said no to that offer.
So you mentioned there's going to be another Giant album at some point.
Yes, I can't say when but it's in the works. The negotiations for the next album. So hopefully it will happen quite soon.
How about another Kent Hilli solo album? You've got an EP and a full length that came out in 2021 called The Rumble.
I have written the new album. It's finished. I'm going into the studio to start recording vocals for it in a week. It's going to come out during 2023.
It doesn't seem like you have much time, but are you working on any other music projects?
One more project coming out in 2023, a project that I'm very excited about. So can't tell you more than that, but it's very exciting. And the record turned out really great. So stay tuned for that.
Okay, I know you can't tell me about it, but can you say yes or no to, are you reviving a classic band name?
No.
Okay.
No, it's not that. It's a collaboration. I can say that much.
All right, that works for me.
Yeah.
Those are all the questions I have for you today, Kent. The new album is Break for Impact by Perfect Plan. It's out now on Frontiers Music. Another great album by the band.
Oh, thank you, man. And thank you for having me.
Once again, I want to thank Kent Hilli of Perfect Plan and Giant for coming on the Rock is George podcast. Be sure to check out the latest album by Perfect Plan called Brace for Impact. It's out now on Frontiers Music. Head over to your favorite music streaming app. If you like what you hear, go out and buy a physical copy of the album. Support the artist. For all things Perfect Plan, check out their website, perfectplan.se. I also want to thank Dustin Hardman of Hardman Promotions and Frontiers Music for making this interview possible. You've been great. I've been George Dionne. I'll see you again soon.